Good evening, guys. Today I'm going to discuss about Angular nested scopes control as syntax. That means basically we want to output something like India is a country, under that a state is Maharashtra, under that Mumbai as a city. So this is the output I want to see in the view. So here when I coming to the name as a nested scope and control as syntax. That means here you can use a scope object inside the controller, or you can just remove the scope object and you can use only this keyword and this keyword in the script file, and later in the view you can provide as a control as a syntax, and we can use that alias, the control as syntax, the alias into your css your view for accessing the properties of members. So first of all, what we are going to do is, first I will explain what we are doing it, then we are going to the programming. So this is the output I am going to show. So I will define three controllers. One is a country controller and the state controller and a city controller. So inside each controller I am defining a name, and and I'm providing the value to the name. That name is attaching to the scope object. So this name is binding to country controller. Similarly, it will be state controller and city controller. So in the view, you can define that a controller and z-controller is a country controller, and we can access that property as a name in the binding expression. Similarly, you can use for state controller and city controller. So it will display the names only India, Maharashtra, and Mumbai. But we need a output something like this. So in order to get that, so what we need to do is we have to provide a, see, when I coming to India, Maharashtra, that means we have to get the parent property. So here inside the country controller we have a property as a name. I can access it, and if I want to access this name value into the child, then we can provide as a parent dot name. So dollar parent is used to access the parent properties. So you can provide the dollar parent dot name, so I can access the parent properties. Similarly, if I want to display something like India, Maharashtra, Mumbai, so Mumbai is a child controller, so you can directly provide as a name. But if I want to access the previous or a child property, then you can use a dollar parent dot name. But if you want to access the grandchild, sorry, grandparent, then you can use a you can provide the two parents like a dollar parent dot name. So this way I can get the values and I will display in the view similar like this. So till now we use that scope function inside the function, scope object inside the function. But here we have to remove the scope object, and instead of scope object I can use this keyword. So this keyword is defined for this controller. So whether you can use a scope object or we can use either, this keyword will be similar. We'll see the difference between this keyword and that and the scope object later in later videos. And similarly we can just remove the scope object as a parameter to the function, and directly you can use this keyword, and we can use for city controller as well for this keyword. So I just define without a scope object, I define the properties and assign to this controller, like this instance to a particular controller. Now, after removing that scope object, but how do you access this properties using controller as syntax? So I define the ng controller, the control name as alias name. So you can give any name. I have given the country controller, and using this alias name, I can access the property. What are the properties are defined here? So I access it. Similarly, I can do for other members. So here, if we define the control as syntax, so we can access the members of that controller using a alias name. So the code is more readable to access the members of a controller using controller as alias. So this is about how to work with the nested scopes and the control as syntax. So first we'll go to a project. Let me go to my application, Visual Studio. Create a new website, a project. I can create a new project name as, let's take a ASP.NET web application itself, and I can provide as a path part 2. So you can create a new folder name as nested scope with control as syntax. So I can create a empty page, click OK. This is my website. So in order to work with the AngularJS, we have to add the respective JavaScript DLLs to your project. So right click on this, add new folder. I can provide as a scripts. So under this folder, I'm going to add existing items. That means the AngularJS files. So I can add the AngularJS files. So I added angularjs.min.js is a production JavaScript file that will be minimized version. So I added this. After that, so here you can write your own custom script file, JavaScript file, and one more thing is you have to add one HTML that is used to show the output. So right click on this, add JavaScript file. I can say is a custom custom script, and I will add one more file as HTML. I can say nested scopes. So here first I will define the route objects and controllers. So you can add the reference of the AngularJS. Then you can create the controllers, something like this. So here basically you are adding the different controllers, and each controller is append with the scope object with the property name. After this, we have to modify the HTML page. Here I can define if I want to access AngularJS tags, then ng hyphen app is, want to access the module, you can use this module inside the HTML with the tag is ng-app. In header section, you can just add the reference of AngularJS. Just drag drop here. So this AngularJS reference is added. After that, in body, can we have to get the output something like this. So if you want to get the output something like this, you can directly add this one. So here I copied from the one node. So the problem is it is adding some special nodes in the space. To avoid that, I'm going to replace with the empty space and replace all. So it was resolved. I pressed Ctrl KD. It will align the HTML tags. So I define a div tag. Inside the div tag, I created one more div and one more div. So here I define the ng controller. As a country controller, I can access the property using name, and here I can take the state controller, and if I want to provide the name something like, if you want to access this name, you can use the dollar parent. So if you want to access the parent objects, you can use the dollar parent dot name. And if you want to access a property of the state controller, you can directly provide the property name. And similarly, if you want to access the this property, that means the grandparent property value, then you can use a dollar dot name. And if you want to access state controller property, you can provide the this is the parent for this child controller. So you can use a dollar parent dot name, and we can access this state controller object. And want to access the city property, you can directly provide the name of that property of that. Now see the output. This one way we can do it, but if I want to more readable, then we can remove the scope object and we can provide this keyword. And similarly, you can remove here scope object and we can provide as a this keyword. and here you can provide remove the scope object and provide this keyword. So this and the scope will be the same functionality. So I will explain that what is the difference between controller as and the scope object. So I define here scope and go to HTML, and instead of you can write as a controller as syntax, can provide as country ctrl. You can give any name. Sorry, can can provide any name, and you can access this name using alias name. Similarly, you can provide the state controller as S- sta state ctrl, and we can access this object using alias name dot, and similarly if you want to access this property into here, we can directly provide the alias name here instead of parent property. And similarly we can do for this as well, and state controller can provide as city ctrl. So this code will be more readable because instead of using a scope object, I use a control as syntax, and this alias name I directly use to get the properties of the controller, and we can use in the next state scope as objects. If you're not using the control as syntax, the problem is we have to provide as a dollar parent dot dollar parent dot dollar parent. Suppose if you have 100 lines of nested scope, then we have the like a 99 dot 99 dollar parents need to be provided in a nested and then access the property. So in order to avoid that, we can use a contrast syntax. That is useful. Let's see the output. Let's see where the problem it is. Press F12. Let's rebuild the solution and see the way the problem. Sorry, the problem is I didn't add the reference of this. Just add the reference here and just reload the page. Excellent. I able to get the output as India, India, Maharashtra, Maharashtra, Mumbai. Sorry, I miss India. Let's see the way the problem it is. Sorry, I had to put as so here if you want to access this value you can put as a this value. So that is a problem. So if you want to display the India then directly you can search country alias name dot name. So you can just I save this and I'm going to sorry I'm going to refresh the page so I'm able to get the output as expected. This is about how to work with the nested scope with the control as syntax. Great. Thank you.